The next item is a request of David Webb for the Parks Department to work with the clerk's office in the interest of transparency and honesty to ensure that the monthly Parks Commission meeting is on the city calendar in advance like other city meetings, rather than being made visible to the public a week ahead of time.
Yep, so this C in new business is my request to ensure that the clerk of the Parks Department works with the clerk of the, whoever manages the calendar, or this, presumably the city clerk, ensuring that the monthly Parks Commission meeting is on the city calendar in advance, like other city meetings, rather than being made visible to the public a week ahead of time. Public participation should be a priority. In the past, it has been deflected to that it is on the agenda, but in case people haven't been at the last meeting or don't specifically know to go look at the agenda, they don't know when the next one is. I recognize that this month might have been an exception because of that aforementioned special meeting where Jeff Kilbrew was the only person on the agenda, and I do recognize that you guys treated that as its own meeting with a complete agenda of its own. That being said, tonight's meeting wasn't on the city calendar until, at the very least, Monday afternoon. It wasn't Monday morning when I resubmitted this request. So I find it egregious, to put it mildly, that we can't even get it put on the city calendar. Like, we're trying to fight for transparency and awareness and sending out emails, but it wasn't even on the city calendar. So this meeting wasn't on the city calendar until 3 or 4 days ago, whereas last week's one was. So anyone who, I mean, I was also at that meeting. It doesn't look like anyone else other than the person on the agenda and the people there to support them showed up. But what I'm trying to say is that the goal of these meetings should be encouraging and valuing public participation, not systematically discouraging it. And the first thing you could do to ensure that people actually know about these meetings and come to them is ensure they are on the city calendar consistently and predictably. And seeing as the dates for the next few meetings were determined at, I believe, the June or July meeting, whatever that one after the 3 or 4 months we didn't have meetings was, I don't understand why this has been unable to be done. So through the chair, could we please have a system put in place that ensures that the monthly parks meetings are on the calendar in advance like all other city meetings?
Through the chair, correct me if I'm wrong, but we usually, I'm guessing they're not posted because we usually get an email a week before asking if we're gonna be in attendance to make sure we do have a quorum, which at that point, you know if you're gonna have a meeting or not. Is that?
So through the chair, yes, we've had some issues with having quorums, and that's been one of the components to that. And, you know, we're trying to do that. These are the tentative meeting dates that we have for that. And then we had a couple of conflicts last year or last spring that made things have to move around a little bit. So, you know, we'll do the best we can on our end to get them out there. Agendas have met mass public law in regards to being posted and everything else, and we'll continue to do that. And then we'll do the best we can to try to get these out when we can and when we can confirm them.
I appreciate that we're meeting the bare legal minimum. Being barely legal is, of course, important, but what we're talking about here is transparency and public awareness. And if you guys had the aforementioned email system to set up, you could also use that to confirm if there was or wasn't a meeting. But because there's no additional communication, you're, like I said, notifying people the absolute bare minimum legal amount ahead of time about something that is a monthly meeting that you guys have had the dates for in advance. So with the understanding that you may not always be able to maintain a quorum because the city has not allowed additional commissioners to join, and you have lost a few in the past few years. With that in mind, could we still, going forward, publish the proposed tentative dates that were determined, I believe in June or July, months ago, and have been established for a while? Can we ensure that these are publicly available on the city calendar? And I guess you have to update it if you're not able to make a quorum that month.
Through the chair, just to be clear, we are not barely meeting the legal requirements. We are meeting the legal requirements.
The bare minimum.
Mass General. We are meeting the legal requirements of Mass General.
Thank you again for meeting
the
bare
We
minimum.
are meeting the legal requirements of Mass General law.
Awesome.
With that said.
If I may.
Is now joining.
If I may,
through the chair to the assistant commissioner. Is there any real logistical issue with posting the tentative meeting dates so that they're on the calendar and then making a revision, change, what have you, once we've selected sort of the tentative dates?
So there were some conflicts last year, last spring, where we ended up having to move meetings, and then they weren't moved off the calendar for whatever reason. So there were some issues along those lines. So as I stated, we will do the best we can to get these out there as quickly as possible so that they're available.
So through the chair, I will say, like, for me at least, I sort of live and die by my calendar, and so it is helpful when meetings are posted there. I'm in agreement with Mr. Webb that if we can post the dates, they're there. If we need to cancel a meeting or make a revision, we certainly can, do so. With the understanding that meetings do move, these are tentative, and maybe we can include language even just saying this is, tentative date, or just say this is the date, and we leave it as such unless we change it. But, I am in agreement that it is really convenient to be able to go to the calendar and say, great, when are the next few meetings for people who may want to attend? So I guess, what I'm trying to sort of ascertain is, while I agree, I think the department is, doing their best to work with a lot of people's schedules, which is challenging in and of its own. Is there an actual issue sort of technologically on the back end that makes this sort of unnecessarily difficult? And if not, then I would be in agreement with Mr. Webb that as we have tentative dates for meetings, that they're simply posted as here's the tentative date for the meeting to the calendar.
So there's no, oops. Bless you. So there's no big technical issue. It's a matter of that we had some conflicts last year that we're still working out on our end of it. So, as I said, we'll do the best we can to get these out as soon as possible so that they're available.
Through the chair, I appreciate that you're offering to do the best you can, the same as last year, but the meeting the bare minimum of Mass General Law is not prioritizing public participation. One of my main complaints with this commission and department has been the lack of prioritization in public participation, and it sounds like even though you can, you are choosing not to publish these in advance. Through the chair.
The meetings are all listed out on our agenda, and that is published every month.
I acknowledge that, and again, I appreciate that you're barely legally doing this, but we're not going for barely legal, we're not going for best you're currently able to do and best you were able to do last year. I brought this petition forward due to a series of inconsistencies and a series of concerning behavior.
Thank you. So at this point, you have reached the 5-minute mark, and now we as a commission can discuss this. Commissioner Darty, do you have a comment that you'd like to make?
Yeah, sorry, if I may, I agree with Commissioner Stratton in the respect that I live and breathe by my calendar as well. And I think a simple statement or disclaimer, as Commissioner Stratton was making, saying like, these dates are tentative, subject to change. Please email or go to, this particular www. Bring right to the agenda online, I think could be helpful. And of course, making sure that we're updating the agenda date if it happens to change. But I think the disclaimer and putting it out there for the full year would serve well. So I'm in agreement. I know we need to probably, make a motion. But I'm curious to hear what you have to say as well, Commissioner.
Would you like to make a motion, Commissioner Darty?
Well, first, I'd love to hear what you have to say if you'd like to make a comment, as well as any other commissioner that hasn't made a comment.
I have to confess, I never use the city calendar really for, certainly not these meetings, because we have them laid out on our agendas in advance, and I go through and I put them all in my calendar. And if they move, they move. If I needed to go to another board, conservation or what have you, I would probably look up their rolling schedule and put that on my calendar, and I would probably check that day to make sure that it hadn't moved. And I think with a public meeting, it's probably gonna be moved out rather than up, right? So, but how I plan my time is different than how other people plan their time. It's certainly reasonable to have it on the calendar, you know, maybe tentatively, but it's then probably gonna get moved. So I guess I would not consider the published municipal calendar as a 100% reliable source of up-to-the-minute information. I would just expect that it would change, and I would probably confirm any dates on the same day as the event.
Through the chair, if you don't mind. Okay. I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't live my life through the city calendar. If I need a commission, I look for that calendar date, because I've gone to meetings and they weren't there. I put that fault on my own for not emailing that board and saying, hey, are we still going on with that meeting? I don't like the comment that we systematically disengage the public. You've been beating the drum of trying to get public here through social media for a year. The same two people show up every single time. So you try to get the public here, and I appreciate that. I enjoy seeing the public here. I want people to come, but people are gonna go to a meeting that they're interested in, not because it's on a city calendar. If they wanna go to a meeting, they're gonna show up to that meeting.
With all due respect, if it was consistently displayed in advance where it would be, if they knew they could show up and there wouldn't be a lack of quorum because the city hasn't distributed commissioners, there are many different reasons that people don't show up, and with all due respect, like, this is the most basic thing that the commission could do.
Mr. Webb, if you will, just, again, your time has expired for this.
But so, I'm personally, I'm happy the way we've been doing it. I think people that are interested in items know that item or that meeting is being held. We have advertised the dates in the agenda, and I can appreciate the fact that we do have trouble getting quorums at times, and we're trying to make sure we have commissioners present at every meeting. So that's.
So through the, I guess, or just in general. So looking through the city website now, just as an example, Zoning Board of Appeals, Historical Commission, Planning Board are booked out through, like, I'm looking at August 2025 right now. And they, some of these have multiple meetings a month. And they're, basically just, they're on the calendar. As I mentioned, when I'm thinking through how I find things, yes, I'm aware that I can go to the agenda, but I have certainly had times where I'm trying to figure out when something is meeting. Not all of them are booked that far out. So a lot of the subcommittees, for example, we don't always know when they are until, really a week beforehand. But I do find it beneficial, and I think that it's a very low lift, at least technologically speaking, to, sort of sit down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or what have you, and hopefully drop it into the calendar and say, here's our meeting dates for the next 6 months. And then frankly, when we have our meeting dates tentatively for the next year, when our June agenda comes out, we can potentially just say, great, we're going to drop the next year. And for me, at least, again, I plan a lot of stuff really far out. I run trainings, I run, talks, other things. I do tend to say, great, here, and I'm in the process right now of saying, here's my 2025 calendar for these, which makes it a lot easier for people to plan around it. And again, changes occur, but I think that it is a relatively easy ask to just say, we're going to throw them on the city calendar. And frankly, it would be great to see other departments putting them there, because people may not realize that these are posted in our agendas. And I don't know if any of my fellow commissioners have anything else they want to say, or otherwise I'm happy to make a motion.
We should probably make a motion.
Okay. So I will make a motion to, I guess the question is, again, I guess we have to make a motion to file this first and then a motion for action. Is that correct? Or can I just make a motion that sort of ties them together?
I would make a motion to file and then make a motion for anything else.
Okay, so I guess I'll, sorry, I'm reading the language for this, so bear with me. Just based off the reading of this, request to work with the clerk's office to get the meetings posted. So I'll make a motion to essentially have these items added to the city calendar and file the item.
Second.
Commissioner Chatteroni,
Yes.
Commissioner Darty,
Yes.
Commissioner Stratton,
Yes.
Commissioner Samaro,
Yes. The next item is a request of